March is Women's History Month, and local money expert J.B. Bryan is here. She's going to talk about bridging the financial gap for women and what steps we can take to achieve it. It's great to see you again, J.B.
It's great to see you, and you are indeed an example of everything that women have accomplished. Well, you are bridging the gap every day.
You haven't seen the moths flying out of my pocketbook, right? So we got to talk about this. I'd like to think I'm an example of helping and pioneering and being an ambassador. But you know, first point we had this morning between salary and pay, there's still a huge gap out there, isn't there?
And amazingly so, the American Association of University Women, if I'm saying their name correctly, but they actually did a survey that it shows that the gap really isn't as big as you think. Like, we're told repeatedly that the gap is about 20%, that men are making about 20% more than women working the same job. Well, the association, they actually went farther, the Association of University Women, and they started comparing majors, GPAs, job positions, marital status even, and when they broke it down to make the criteria even more specific, they found that there's about a 7% gap.
7%, because I would have said 25, but that's perception is not the reality.
Right, because things are changing. Women are changing the majors that they're selecting. You know, they're choosing majors and going into careers that make more money. So things have actually changed a lot, and but they did find that the gap is large for minority women. Black and Latino women still have a big wage gap there. So it's larger for them.
So how do you start bridging that gap? We could spend the whole next week talking about that, I'm sure.
And it's happening. That women are going to college more often. More women are actually leaving high school and enrolling in college than men these days. So because of that, women have found that education, is their way to increase their income. More women than ever are actually working out of the household. So that's like over 60% of women are working outside of the household. So that's how you make it happen. But unfortunately, when you look at another step, so we do have the growth in education, and we do have the growth in we are
careers
reducing the wage gap. Yeah, and we do have more women that are employed. I don't know if women are excited about that. No, I was joking. Look, there's some women like, yeah, I'm working harder than ever.
And some men too. I mean, that's a whole separate discussion.
Yes. So but we do have a challenge there with women not investing. We do find that more men are actually investing and saving for their future than women are.
Why?
So, and I think it could be that we're not taking our money as seriously still, unfortunately. And even if I looked at it farther, you'll see that women, when they change jobs, they tend to spend their money thinking that they'll get to it or they'll do it later. Or even women spend more of their money. I know that when I was in school, my mother's money was spent on the children. And it was that my father's money would be saved and used for long-term needs.
Right.
But sometimes things happen, and fortunately for my parents, they're still together 60 years later. But imagine if they went through a divorce and my mother had not taken her savings as seriously and had spent most of her income on our needs. So you find more and more women are doing that, and unfortunately we do have to reverse that. We do have to reduce that investment gap. We do, and this type of discussion, it's a beautiful thing that you're taking this time out in Women's History Month to talk about that women need to invest more of their money. You need to find out what is available to you at work. If there is not a plan available at work, say you only work 30 hours, they have their retirement plan available to people that work 40 hours at minimum. So you have to find out about individual retirement accounts, and they're available. Even the government has one, retirement account for you that there's no minimum requirement to participate.
So if you're watching right now and saying, well, I'm in this camp, you're describing me, I haven't been tucking anything away, but I don't know anything about stocks and bonds, and how do you bridge that gap? Start with a savings account.
That's right. That much needed emergency fund is vital for you. So yes, you have to start with increasing your education in investment options so that you do start feeling more confident.
We have a minute left. Going back to the education part of it, watching now, you're inspired, you want to maybe take that step and pursue the degree or finish your degree, or do we talk so much about student loans and the debt that's associated with that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
How do you?
Women actually are getting educated more, but they're spending more on their education, which I thought was strange. And when you look at it over time, over a 4-year period after graduation, women are not paying down their school loans at the pace that men are paying down their debt. So we need to realize that I don't suggest that you go into education debt that exceeds the amount of your salary in the job that you're going to school to obtain. So if you anticipate your salary will be around $50,000, then the maximum debt that you should accumulate during your years would be $50,000. I mean, that's just a rule of thumb. Because the average debt that people leave school with for women is $24,000, with men around $22,000. So I guess they have to be more careful in realizing that that debt will need to be paid back, and you need to be conscious of what career choices you're selecting and the ability from that job to pay back that debt.
And this is more than playing into the stereotype of women being great shoppers, but guess what? We are super consumers, and we can appreciate a deal and where that money is allocated, so shop around.
Definitely shop around for the right loans when you're getting your education, and we're aggressively getting it. You know, be very careful should you actually accumulate debt. Is there a way that you can avoid having debt? And in your spending, with every dime that you spend, be conscious of, I need to save for my future. Do I really need an additional clothing item when that could be a contribution into a savings or retirement plan?
It is inspiring to watch it add up. I've tried to dial back, and even when you save a little,
I told you you're an inspiration.
Right?
You really are.
A couple years ago, that we talked about that purse situation.
Yes.
See?
And you're doing it. You're a living example of what we can do with our lives. I mean, we've watched you grow. I have, with children, family.
You'll have to come here more often.
You keep it going. Keep doing what you're doing.
You too.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Great insight today, and I'm encouraged, because it's discouraging to hear that gap growing. So I like to hear that it's shrinking.
That's right.
JB Bryan offers free money seminars every Wednesday at noon and on select Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. 3900 West Terra Parkway, Suite 300, right here in Richmond. Pre-registration is required.